Welcome to the SFC Markets and Finance. This is the second day of Boao Forum for Asia Annual Conference 2024. When the global economy is not well expected, what role will Chinese economy play in it? Are Chinese market attractive enough for the world? Among the 2,000 delegates, some former dignitaries and directors of international organizations presented and shared their valuable opinions with us.
I think, first of all, let me say this. I mean, if we had some level of agreement about regulation of artificial intelligence on a global level, that would help everybody. Because nobody wants artificial intelligence to take over, so that machines take over human decision making. That's clearly in nobody's interest. So there has to be a way towards joint regulation. And I think that Asia has every reason to work in that direction. All Asian countries have every reason to work in that direction. And then on the other hand, Asian economies are going to be the engine of growth globally. So they have to be listened to very carefully. China is going to be 30% of global growth, and many other Asian economies will do their part. So, Asia is such an important part of global growth that it has to be listened to.
And you have many distinguished people here coming from all over the world, especially Asia, but not just Asia. So I am a firm believer in strengthening the dialogue between Asia and the rest of the world so that we better understand one another and can more easily explore common ground. Well, China is a leader in green energy, as we know. And I think it will continue to play a catalytic and leading role. There will need to be careful discussions over how this is integrated into the West so that the West isn't flooded by electric vehicles from China. But I think governments will need to find good framework to address these issues. But China has very advanced technology in green energy, and it can contribute not only to easing the environmental problems here, but around the world as well. So I think China is well poised to be a global leader in bringing us into a more environmentally safe world. Well, the Chinese market is important for us. We've made a number of investments here. We're very pleased with the success of our investments, and we're pleased to continue to explore investment opportunities here. Firms like ours, we have to be aware of global geopolitical tensions, but we can make our own decisions on investment as we see fit. We have confidence in our group's future in China, in the rest of Asia. We have growing investments in other parts of Asia as well. It's a dynamic region, and it now you find in China as well as other parts, not just large-scale labor force, but skilled labor. And you find good, particularly in China and India, a very good leadership of engineers and scientists to be at the forefront of technological development. And so we are quite encouraged about the prospects of continuing to invest in China.
With the rising trade barriers around the world, what will be the future of the global trade? What kind of economic and trade relationship will China develop with their countries? Let's hear some delegates' opinions from different countries.
Well, this is a very wise choice of words, suggesting a different narrative which should emerge as a result of our discussions, because the challenges are really common. Everybody is exposed to the same problems resulting from climate change, resulting from other problems of our time, and the responsibility that exists is shared. Everybody has to participate in sharing the effort for an improvement, change, and so forth. Now, the question is, how should that be achieved? And of course, there are many panels that will discuss different aspects of that. But I think the choice of the title of the forum is very wise. I mean, this is the problem of the world today. The world needs a very big change, which will come as a result of a very clear ideas on various issues, such as trade, intellectual property, security. Questions like this will have to be discussed in depth. Well, it is going to be complicated because many important players in this field are doing their things in their own way. European Union is doing its change in its way, China is going its way, United States in its own way, and so forth. So the question of international coordination of policies is really very serious. I mean, we have very little, we don't have enough of that, but clearly we have efforts and real changes happening within major systems, such as China, such as United States, such as European Union. The question is how to pull all this together, and in some very important ways. But then, of course, globally, there is still much to be done.
I think even today, you've seen in the Gaza humanitarian, the Gaza crisis, China was a big factor in the UN Security Council passing the resolutions. So I think China will only have a growing voice in geopolitics. Yes, there are some projects being implemented, some in the pipeline, and some are in the planning stage. So I hope that the process of the CPEC will accelerate.
Well, I think the bilateral relationship is today at a difficult moment. We know that. We see it. However, I think it is now beginning to improve. And I think that this improvement can continue, especially if the two countries deepen their commitment to dialogue. As I said earlier, when I was worked for the U.S. government, I realized that dialogue is so important to understanding the other side of the table. And I think neither the U.S. nor China engaged in a sufficiently robust dialogue over the last few years, but this is beginning to improve. And I think that we can find areas where we disagree, but we can still better understand the other's perspective and narrow the gap between each side's different view of important issues. So I think that over the medium and long term, there's every reason to be optimistic that the U.S. and China can manage their relations in a mutually prosperous way. I think we need to encourage leaders to look at the long-term benefits of increased trade and increased investment and not allow our countries to be swallowed up in short-term populism. Today, that is the case in many countries around the world where we have been on a path of greater protectionism. In the long run, global integration is the best path we have to mutual prosperity and mutual peace. So I think we just need to find leaders who can articulate this vision and then follow through it.
Green finance, well, I think Indonesia is all, we give more attention to the green finance because Indonesia actually is almost like China. We have a lot of natural resources, we have a lot of forests, but in the same time, we also build like coal, nickel, which is, so that's why in our policy, we are trying to combine, the development of the mining, but also in the same time, we maintain our forest and so on. So that's why sustainability development is one of important aspect for Indonesia as well. Right now, it's still in the progress for underlying trade and investment already in place. And later on, by having correlation also with the payment connectivity between Indonesia and China, of course, we do hope that in the future, I cannot say later this end of this year or maybe the next following years, but at least the objective actually is how we can also open for having retail transaction between China and Indonesia, as already happened between Indonesia and Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore. So we can use just our QR, our bank, buying some goods in Singapore or Thailand and Malaysia by having our QR. Or the other way around, when they go also like Alipay or WeChat. A lot of things needs to be done, because like for example, like Indonesia, we only have QR Indonesian standard. So this is something like need to be worked on first to make it settle. At least maybe not so many QR, but maybe few QR, So that's why it's much easier if we can work together or cooperate.
Today's conference continues to dig deep into Asian economic growth, international trade, and geopolitical issues, and so on. Thanks for watching. See you.